the replacement, there's another reason why the sky hasn't fallen. You mentioned our biggest win of the season, perhaps. I mean, Baltimore's right there with it, was San Francisco. Who was our quarterback that day?
Philip Walker Jr.
And how did he play?
Garbage.
And who won the game?
The Browns.
So we've done it against the NFL's elite.
But
why can't we do it against the rest of the schedule?
It's the statistics. If you do a dangerous job, yes, you may come home safe one day, but there's always a chance, day after day after day after day, that you're going to have something happen because.
But it can be done. We saw it.
But I'm playing the statistics. The way I want to look at this thing is, when you talk about leadership is about making decisions and having guardrails. The Cleveland Browns did not have any guardrails at the quarterback position.
No argument for me.
Because they thought that they could get rid of guys. And the quarterback position is different from an offensive guard.
Great.
You have to have a blueprint. You have to have a way of doing things. Josh Dobbs is valuable. And the reason he's valuable is he went from starting from Arizona to starting in Minnesota because other teams had value and they understood the value of what he brought to the table. The Browns didn't understand
That's
that.
a fact.
So now you have P.J. Walker and DTR. Now, I agree. DTR, I'm starting over him over P.J. Walker. But here's the problem. I now have to go look at 85 other guys in that locker room that is playing their tails off, that playing hurt. And their season is laying on the shoulders of a rookie.
63.
Yeah. 63. They're laying on the shoulders of a rookie.
Let me ask you this question.
He went back to college.
Last week, would the Browns have won that game with DTR against Baltimore?
Very unlikely.
No.
Okay.
DTR
Very
played Baltimore
Would
the
they have
first
won
time
it with
around and lost
P.J. Walker?
28-3.
No.
Do you think they would have won it with Josh Dobbs?
There's a chance.
There's a better chance.
I think Dobbs is a little better than those guys, but we still need to be realistic.
Wait, let's quantify
And
it.
they made a mistake
Let's
trading
quantify
Josh
it,
Dobbs.
though.
Don't get me wrong.
But let's quantify a little better. The combined quarterback numbers of the two quarterbacks on the Browns roster, 1 touchdown, 8 interceptions. Josh Dobbs has thrown for 2 different teams in 2 different offenses with 2 coordinators and a different set of wide receivers, 11 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. The judgment that was made by the Cleveland Browns after training camp was over that DTR was a qualified backup and they could move on from Josh Dobbs is coming back to bite them.
Especially because they didn't, listen, every team with a high-paid quarterback has a, let me just finish, has a low-paid backup, without exception. There's no team with a highly paid quarterback that has a high-paid backup. So I understand them letting Jacoby Brissett walk because you're not paying.
He would have cost more.
You're not paying $8 million.
Exactly.
Right? But Joshua Dobbs was only making $2 million.
Right.
There are plenty of backups on good teams with a $2 million backup. I'm not asking them to have an $8 million backup, but a $2 million backup was reasonable. At the time,
I don't think it was done for money. It clearly wasn't.
Well,
There's very little
I don't
difference
know.
between he and DTR.
At the time, none of us thought anything of it. But that's not our job. Our job is not to be the general manager
You're right.
of the football team. And they clearly erred.
And,
well,
Bill, that is an insurance policy. The backup quarterback is an
That's
insurance
right.
policy. So if you buy a Maserati and you drive it off the lot without insurance and a semi-truck comes and T-bones you, that's on you. That's your loss.
But I actually have a bigger beef with them. My bigger beef is not even trading Josh Dobbs.
I agree.
It's that they didn't address it at the deadline once Watson wasn't
because then they knew what the issue was.
Exactly.
And
They
they
knew.
knew that there was a problem.
Yes.
And at that point, and to your point, when you say you don't drive a Maserati, if you buy a Maserati in Cleveland, understand that Maserati is not going to be used for half the season. It's winter. You ain't got nothing. You got to have you a backup, pickup 4x4 to do what you need to do. And my thing is, I got a problem with his rhetoric because it's just not the fact that he's saying, I like the room, Tyvis. It's the fact that he's been inactive in periods.
And that's completely fair.
That's
His
gonna come
first
back
mistake
to
was
him.
letting
completely fair.
Dobbs go. He compounded that mistake when he didn't get a quality backup quarterback in here 5 weeks ago.
They tried. They just didn't want to.
Well, we don't know.
They tried.
They
Carson
obviously-
Wentz is with the team
No,
now.
they tried to trade for Jacoby, but they didn't want to pay that price.
Let's
for
do
him.
this,
You
guys.
could have gotten Dobbs for a 6th-round pick.
Let's try this. Let's go around the room
Yeah.
and let's each give a name of who we're bringing in here. Bull, you can start. Who you calling?
I have a list of 10 guys. But let me.
All right.
You
While you look at your
last.
list, I'm going to give you my name so you can all laugh at me.
Now,
I'm calling Tom Brady.
Well, obviously.
I call him too.
Okay, so I guess you're not all going to laugh. Okay, good.
He'd obviously be the first call.
So
He's going to say no.
listen, he may say no,
But I
but
have to
here's
call
what we
him.
know about Tom Brady. Here's what we know.
He likes challenges.
He has never been ready to retire. Never. What better way to bookend your 7 Super Bowls? How many has he
Like winning
won?
one with
He
the
has
Browns.
7 right now.
By coming back
8.
and winning one in the city that can't win one.
Here's what I'm doing. I'm calling Tom Brady 1. He's going to say no, but I'm calling him.
You got to call.
Then second, I'm calling Matt Ryan to try to get him out of the broadcast booth. Now, he's not as good as Tom Brady. He wasn't very good last year. Threw a lot of picks. However, he still threw more interceptions than picks, even though he threw a lot of picks. And he completed
More touchdowns than picks.
More touchdowns than picks. And he he completed 67% of his passes, which is really good.
And really,
on a bad team.
in this offense, that's what we need. We're not a vertical team.
No.
However,
short passes, high percentage.
assuming those two guys say no, which I think is the assumption.
Which one's more likely to say yes? I think Matt Ryan. I
probably.
do too.
Then I'm going completely outside the box.
Okay.
I'm looking for a guy who at least may still be a great athlete that I can have run and do kinds of things. Colin Kaepernick. It's insane, but I'm calling.
I brought his name up a couple of weeks ago, and you guys killed me for it.
I said it was insane then. It's still insane
That boy
now,
don't
but I'm
wanna-
bringing
that
him.
boy don't want to play football.
RG3, Cam Newton, Malik Cunningham. He's on the Patriots practice squad. Ran for ridiculous numbers at Louisville.
Right.
I think he ran for like 2,000 yards in 2 seasons. Okay, the best quarterback in the XFL, Jordan Ta'amau, is a runner. The best practice squad, the best quarterback for the USFL, Jamar Smith. I don't even know what college he went to, but he was a good runner too. Or Ben DiNucci, who was on the Broncos practice squad and was the second best quarterback in the XFL.
I remember
this
Ben
past year.
DiNucci.
Let's go.
It's
We got to
only-
get aggressive. I don't want Trevor Siemian. If I'm
only
going to
like,
get a stiff white dude, I want Tom Brady or Matt Ryan.
I'm about to say-
If not, I'm going to the athletes.
Who are you calling, Ty? By the way, you didn't mention Nick Foles.
I didn't. I don't want Nick Foles. I don't want stiff white dudes.
I mean, when you talk about
Well, I mean,
the backup that won the Super Bowl, I know it was 6 years ago, but he's still, in NFL terms, he still has gas in the tank, you would think, at least by his biological age.
He doesn't fit the Browns' description of quarterback.
Bruh, at this point,
I'm just telling you.
at this point,
just
the
telling
two that do,
Just telling
so
you.
you want to just keep with the two that do.
Hey, listen,
well, this is what we're looking for.
He named like 3 of them that fit the
I bring
description.
So who are you bringing in?
Cam Newton, RG3, and Kaepernick. Bring them all in. See if any of them can play.
I mean, you talk about turn back the clock, but okay. Okay, it's your answer.
RG3 claims
I know
he's
that he runs
spoken
off-
with teams.
yeah,
They'd be interested, but he'd be a distraction. Well, he wouldn't be a distraction here.
I look at Cam Newton.
I look at Cam Newton.
Now, who's the one call you're making, though?
Oh, Tom Brady would be
Okay,
first.
so
but
we all can agree Tom Brady's on
Yeah.
speed dial.
Yeah.
But now in the world of realistic,
Cam Newton, even though his arm is shot.
man, Cam Newton last time I
arm
saw him
was
throw, couldn't throw it 10
awful.
yards.
He was
Couldn't
shot.
throw it 10
God,
yards.
his arm
And I don't know
was
if he can run much anymore. Like, is
I
he
don't
still
think.
an athlete?
And I just don't think they're going to do that. I don't.
You'd have to try that.
So we'll all have Tom Brady. My number 2 would be Nick Foles. Then I guess
Why
your number
Nick
2
Foles over Matt Ryan?
because in the world of fairy tales and
Yeah.
Mulberry Street where
He
they're
does it
living,
again.
this guy did it 6 years ago. Now, for whatever reason, Nick Foles in his career was just a great backup. He was the guy that you called on to come in relief. Whenever he was named the starter,
Terrible.
he was ass. But when he was great was when he came in and the chips were down. The chips are down here.
You know what's sad, guys? They're most like, not that there's so really any great options out here.
Carson Wentz, we know, is off the table.
He's off the table.
That
he was
hurts.
the best option
I
of the
would've-
free
I
agent
would've
guys.
taken him.
Listen, we
But-
talked about him in week 4. We talked
My
about
guess
him.
is they're going to end up bringing in a guy who's more of a third quarterback. I mean,
They're
I don't, you know.
They're
like,
gonna sign like Malik Cunningham. Off
Kellen
the
Mond
practice
is coming back. I'm just telling y'all now. Break the news
Not the
3 days
answer.
in advance.
Yeah, not
Kellen
the
Mond
answer.
is coming back. 2 guys that you guys missed, by the way.
Yeah.
Okay, who are they?
Not mentioned. Colt McCoy
Yep.
I purposely left them off.
Yeah,
and
I do too.
Philip Rivers, who I would take
No,
over
no,
Matt
no.
Ryan in a
He's
heartbeat.
completely dead.
Philip Rivers has 12 kids. And he's
Andrew
been out of
Luck.
football for
He's
how
got
long?
14 kids and been out for 2 years, but
Okay.
he was the guy.
I'd take Drew
the
Brees over
49ers
him.
said they were going to call him if they made the Super Bowl last year.
Brees.
I
Andrew
would
Luck.
take Drew Brees. He's been
Andrew
out
Luck
2
said he
years
tried
now
to
also.
come back.
I mean,
But I'd rather have Drew
Let's
Brees.
just make this a reality show, okay? It's called who's the quarterback?
Yeah.
And you bring I would watch this every episode.
Yeah.
You bring in Colin Kaepernick,
Yep.
Cam Newton,
Yes.
Nick Foles,
One
Yes.
week.
all of these names that we've
Phillip Rivers,
got some money.
RG3.
It's only 8 games
each
left.
day, one of them gets voted off quarterback island, and you
Yeah.
do a rose ceremony and the whole thing.
Yeah.
You TV it up, and at the end of it, the quarterback standing is who we're left with.
Yeah, I mean, Colt is like 37, 38 at this point.
Yeah.
If I'm going to take a guy that age.
Could you imagine, though, that the
all
postscript to that? If Colt McCoy came back to Cleveland and won a Super Bowl here,
That'd be
the
amazing.
world would stop spinning. That would just, my mind couldn't handle
The
that.
fact of the matter, they're going to get I'm telling you, they're going to sign somebody that's either on a practice squad or just got released. Somebody
Kellen
that's.
Mond.
It ain't.
No, it's got to be
gonna
somebody with upside.
Kellen Mond,
Yeah,
yeah.
so here's what it is, because I agree with you,
Yeah.
Bull. I don't think they're going to sign the guy and say he's our starter.
Right.
This is an insurance policy that they didn't have with Deshaun Watson.
That's right.
So in other words, and by the way, you made the decision 3 months ago that Josh Dobbs was not needed because DTR was that advanced.
That's
Yes,
it.
you have
Now
to
you
play him.
threw him into a fire, rolled in gasoline with no clothes on. And when he exploded, you were like, didn't
Yeah.
see that coming.
It's a tricky
now
spot.
give him, he's got
Yeah.
the whole week as runway to Sunday. He's the
Tricky
starting
spot against
quarterback.
the Steelers,
It's a
though.
very tricky
Yeah.
spot.
only-
But here's what I want to do. Put him out there with a week's preparation and let's see how he can do now.
you talking
But
about?
by the way,
DTR.
if
yeah.
he sucks
DTR.
against Pittsburgh,
And-
you've got to play him the next week.
And yes, but I mean, you have to have his insurance policy back up in the building tomorrow.
Well, even if you sign Matt Ryan and Tom Brady, they're not playing this Sunday.
No, of course not.
Y'all are
But
wrong.
they're in the room. They're learning the verbiage. They're
Right.
they're getting acclimated, and they're basically just over in the corner. Listen, guys, I have faith in DTR.
Yeah, any
Listen,
retired
I do.
guy,
Listen.
any retired guy's going to need a few weeks. I
I'm
would think.
going to let y'all know something right now.
Crazy.
The Cleveland Browns, you think we was excited? This defense is not going to let the Pittsburgh Steelers win that game. They're just not. They come into Cleveland, they're not going to be able
Well,
to
the
beat
problem
the
is
Browns.
they didn't let them win the first game.
But here's the thing.
And
no,
they did.
I think this ratcheted up. This is another level. I believe that you have to look with foresight. The Cleveland Browns are around to be 7-3. And the problem you don't want to have is what the 49ers had. What happens if you keep winning games and you don't go get another quarterback and then DTR's playing well a couple days and then he gets hurt? Now you gotta go get somebody 2 weeks from now.
Well, no,
when you could have already had them in the system, ready to go.
No, gee, there will be a quarterback on the roster by
Yeah, I
Friday.
mean, they're going to add somebody.
Like they're going to take their time, but someone has to be on the roster by Friday because you need 3 quarterbacks.
Yeah, but there's, as you said, as we've said many times, there are levels. There's 3 possibilities. They're going to add in the worst possibility is the Kellen Mond.
Oh, no. We're
Yeah.
not throwing that out there.
who's been around.
that's what we
That's
have
big
right
nuggets.
now.
There's no upside.
Yeah, but
Nuggets
we've
said
got 2 of them right
He's
now.
PJ Walker with a couple less games played.
Yeah.
That's what
The
he
second
says.
option is another unproven guy with upside, like a Malik Cunningham of the Patriots.
I like
who
him.
put up ridiculous rushing and passing numbers in college.
But why isn't he starting in New England? Their
'Cause
quarterback play has been
He's a
pathetic.
rookie. I don't know.
Bill Belichick's fried. I don't know. He's done.
Who knows? But at least there's some
something there.
upside
It's
there,
something
right?
there.
Why?
And then the third option is the veteran.
Wait a minute.
The veteran who's been good, has had his moments
That's
in the
what
league.
I want to go with proven.
And I'm hoping it's at least 2 or 3 and not 1. And 1, I mean,
2 things. 1, I didn't know Deshaun Watson was talking to the media today. That's 1. 2,
What time's he talking?
He's speaking as we speak.
right now.
Oh, good.
wow.
So we'll keep an eye out for quotes.
It's only one. It's one thing that can happen. Okay, listen. This could be the greatest story ever told.
It could be.
What I'm about to say.
Okay.
Jacoby Brissett go to the Commanders and say, "I demand my release."
Was he Madonna now?
I demand my release,
And-
and he come back to Cleveland.
and-
They'd build a statue. of the
And
man.
by the way,
It would be a hell of a story.
it would be, wouldn't it?
note to all of the guys out here. This is a really good learning lesson. If you're gonna pay somebody, all these quarterbacks, all this money, and you putting half of your millions into half of your roster, your cap into a quarterback, you're dumb as hell if you go out there and say we don't have a backup. You're dumb.
I know.
Why
and
would you do that?
and Bull said earlier,
Why
let's
would you
face
do
it,
that?
teams that have a great quarterback don't have a good, and you're right.
I didn't
You
say they don't have a
should.
good backup. I said they don't have a highly paid
You're right.
backup. Yeah.
However, the Browns had the answer to that, not in Jacoby Brissett, because he was going to cost too much money.
Right.
Josh Dobbs was sitting here. I had said on this show maybe 2 months ago when the Watson thing came out, I made a quote. I said, Andrew Berry brought the Browns into this season woefully underprepared. And I was killed for that.
Did not go over well.
But let's just revisit that for a second. How much better do you feel if he would kept the $2 million backup in Josh Dobbs, who, by the way, is trying to pilot Minnesota? He's saving the Titanic
He's done
in
a nice
Minnesota.
job in Minnesota.
He's done an
'Cause
unbelievable job.
What's interesting is he got off to a decent start. Now, Josh Dobbs is not really a starting quarterback, in my opinion.
Of course not.
He got off to a
He's
nice
a
start in
quality
Arizona
backup.
and then went downhill after a number of games.
He did.
And he's gotten off to a very nice start in Minnesota.
Yeah.
But
better than he did in Arizona.
He is a level above what the Browns
Yes.
have.
All right,
There's
let's-
no doubt
Let's
about it.
cut this out. 'cause
And they had him right there.
I'm
Yeah.
sick of this narrative right here. Y'all gotta cut this out.
What are you sick of?
Because y'all act like coming into this season, Josh Dobbs had made his first start.
He had barely
just
played.
last
That's
year?
true.
Was he a better option than DTR, who had 0 snaps?
No.
Okay.
Because through the
Why are you not keeping both?
Because through the preseason, everybody was like, "Man, he looked way better than
He did. You're absolutely right.
Why
And-
wouldn't
and
you
Ty-
why
not
couldn't you
trade
keep both?
him?
Tyvis,
Keep both of
you're
them.
right.
Fifth-round pick.
The ceiling for
Because
DTR is higher than Josh Dobbs.
Nobody keeps 3 quarterbacks on their 53-man roster. They keep 2 and 1 on the practice squad for emergency reasons.
Okay.
You could have kept
Fine.
DTR on the practice squad.
You think if they would have cut DTR
Yes.
as well as he played, nobody would have picked him up?
No.
As much as we sitting here talking about
Every
backup
guy we've
quarterbacks,
talked about that last year, oh, you can't put this guy in the practice squad. Not that many guys get claimed on cuts.
And by the way,
quarterbacks?
And by the way,
Quarterbacks?
Yes, they don't
Yeah,
get claimed very
okay.
often.
A young quarterback that looked good?
why do we do this? Why do we do this?
Yeah.
And your parents taught you better than this.
Yeah.
Why, when you got in trouble, you go to your parents and you say, "Well, why'd you do that?" Because everybody else was doing it. That ain't never been an excuse for never doing nothing in life. You got to be a leader. Who cares about what everybody else is doing? You are put in charge to make decisions the best for the Browns, not to mimic what the Vikings or the Cowboys or the Eagles do. You got your situation. You should have kept both of those dudes. Who cares if he's on the practice squad? Because guess what? When you're sitting here with nothing left to be talked about, we're in this position today because nobody had the forthright to state, you know what? We got a quarterback who ain't played in 3.5
That
years.
man would have got claimed.
We don't have a quarterback who ain't played in 3.5 years, and they saw him get hurt. And they still. Here's the thing, Tyvis. They still didn't make no moves at the deadline.
Yeah, that's it. We could debate whether they should have traded Josh Dobbs or not. It's a fair debate.
Right.
Fine. But there's no doubt they should have done something at the trade
I
deadline.
agree with that.
100%. And they could have had Dobbs back. Dobbs got traded for a 7th-round pick.
And you notice what Barry said. Oh, I want to talk about that.
Yeah.
He said, "No, I'm not really into going diving back in there. I'm worried about the room today."
They
Oh,
could have-
sure you would.
And they could have signed Carson Wentz for nothing.
Well,
On Josh
I'm
Dobbs'
out on
podcast
Carson.
last week, he said he felt he was going to be traded back to Cleveland just before the deadline. We're going to bring in